Good morning. We're going to get started this morning with an invocation from Pastor Joe Kendrick of Spring Creek Baptist Church. Pastor?
Will you please join with me as we pray? This morning we ask for a blessing on these proceedings. We ask that the business done here today be done with kindness, compassion, and justice for the good of all people. Amen.
All right, good morning. I call this meeting to order, and we on item 3 of the agenda is Office of the Mayor, and we have a pretty packed schedule this morning, so I'm going to make my way down to the front and we'll get going. Is this working? All right. First up, we have a proclamation for Bike to Work. So if our Bike to Work crew could come up here, none of whom look like they biked to work, but that may just be my ignorance about biking to work. You did? Okay, excellent. All right, I'm impressed. All right, we've got a proclamation and about Bike to Work Day, and I would ask the clerk to read.
Whereas for more than a century, the bicycle has been an important part of the lives of most Americans. Whereas today, thousands of Oklahomans engage in bicycling as a viable and environmentally friendly form of transportation, an excellent form of exercise and a great recreational activity for individuals and families. Educating bicyclists and motorists regarding proper and safe operation of bicycles is important to ensuring the safety and comfort of all users. Whereas bicycling promotes a healthy lifestyle that lends itself to a healthy community and environment. Whereas downtown OKC, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, the Oklahoma City Police Bike Patrol Unit, Embark, Oklahoma City County Health Department, Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, the Oklahoma Bicycle Society, local bicycling clubs, and bicycling shops throughout Oklahoma City are promoting greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education to reduce accidents, injuries, and fatalities for all. Whereas, now therefore, David Holt, the mayor of the city of Oklahoma City, does hereby proclaim Friday, May 18th, 2018 as Bike to Work Day in Oklahoma City, and he encourages citizens to always wear a helmet when cycling, to recognize the importance of bicycle safety, and to be more aware of cyclists on our city streets.
Very good. I hadn't realized until now that I'm mayor the pressure I put on myself when I declare Bike to Work Day on May 18th. I'm going to have to make some plans between now and then, but that's exciting. Thank you guys. All of you here kind of represent different entities and passions that are trying to make bicycling easier and safer here in Oklahoma City. And I believe you might be willing to speak for the group. All right?
So Bike to Work Day is May 18th, and the city and the Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership are partnering on an event. If you bike to downtown in the morning, come to Myriad Gardens between 7:15 and 9 a.m., where we'll have free coffee and breakfast, and all your cycling friends will be there.
Excellent. Let's give a round of applause for their efforts. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have a proclamation for Building Safety Month. Our building safety crew could come up here. All right, we've got just a few hundred more whereases, and I would ask the clerk to get going on these. Please read.
Whereas the City of Oklahoma City is committed to recognizing our growth and strengths depends on the safety and economic value of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. Whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. These guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a U.S.-based organization which brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, and play. Whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our local code officials who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to keep America great. Whereas the theme for the Building Safety Month 2018 is Building Code Saves Lives, and all Americans are encouraged to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient structures, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, David Holt, the mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2018 as Building Safety Month in Oklahoma City.
Thank you. You know, people who have chosen a profession in building safety are kind of like long snappers in football. You know, we probably take it for granted until something goes wrong. And today, though, is a day that we are showing our appreciation for all that you do. We're going to have a few words from Mike Miller, city employee. And by the way, if you are here in the building, you notice how much we are thanking and appreciating our city employees this morning. We've got a bunch of pictures throughout City Hall, and we'll be doing our Employee of the Month here in a moment. But thank you for your service, and we'd like you to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of all of Development Services in the City of Oklahoma City, I want to tell you thank you for having us up here today. And these gentlemen here represent the chief inspectors for all four trade groups that we have, Mr. Alex Keys, Mr. Steve Davis, Gary McMillan, and Mr. Robert Lane, sir. And thank you again.
Great. Thank you. Let's hear it for the people who keep us safe. All right, now we're going to move into some resolutions, and this is going to clear the room if we start here. Let's see, which one are we on? Yeah, it is. We're going to start with item 3A on the agenda, and that's the Plan OKC. So that's like half the room. If you guys want to all come up here. Yeah, we had to take this picture out on the steps of the building. Come on up here. Feel free to be on both sides. You have no choice, really. We're really proud of our planning department, and particularly this unique accomplishment of creating Plan OKC, and you're going to hear more about it here in this resolution. And if the clerk would please read.
Whereas in July of 2015, the Planning Commission and City Council of the City of Oklahoma City adopted the citywide comprehensive plan, Plan OKC, with the tagline, Planning for a Healthy Future, which signifies the plan's priorities about human, economic, and environmental health. Whereas each year the American Planning Association recognizes outstanding efforts in planning and planning leadership and has bestowed its Excellence and Achievement Award, known as the Daniel Burnham Award for a Comprehensive Plan, to Plan OKC. Whereas the plan was a product of 5 years of extensive research, analysis, discussion, and public engagement. Some of the reasons cited by the APA in selecting Plan OKC included its multifaceted public engagement program, a sophisticated model to evaluate outcomes of various development patterns, a compatibility system encouraging land use integration, and an innovative website to track the plan's progress. The APA commended the intensive modeling, data analysis, and creation of the growth scenarios, which allow residents to make educated choices for the healthiest, most efficient, and sustainable growth option, and also lauded the plan's use of a wide range of approaches to maximize public engagement with a twofold strategy: to reach underrepresented populations such as minorities and young adults, low-income families, and families with small children, and to go to places where people were already gathering. Whereas the planning process involved participation from the community at neighborhood workshops, resident-administered meetings in a box, a Chamber of Commerce retreat, design workshops, and multiple open houses, and several advisory groups were formed, including 27-member mayor-appointed citizen advisory team. Whereas an estimated 20,000 people participated in the public engagement process, and the thorough, detailed information gained from the public paved the way for a smooth adoption of the plan by the Planning Commission and the City Council. The plan shows how all key stakeholders, the city planners, elected officials, special interest groups, and local residents, can work together to create a comprehensive plan that works for everyone. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby commend and congratulate the planning teams and city staff for their work on the citywide plan, Plan OKC, which has been awarded the 2018 National Planning Excellence and Achievement Award, the Daniel Burnham Award for a Comprehensive Plan from the American Planning Association.
Job. Yeah, let's hear it for planning. Now, these are not always words that planners want to hear, but there's going to be a vote at the end of this. But we'll let you make your case here in a minute. But, I think on this particular one, we might want to hear from some council members. And I would start with, he didn't know, but I bet he's got something to say. Councilman Stonecipher approached me about this, I think maybe even before I was sworn in, that he wanted to have this recognition today. So we'll start with you if you'd like to say a few words.
I just want to thank everybody here today that's standing up with the mayor. What an incredible award. I am so proud of the city. I'm so proud of the planning, and I'm so proud of this group. My hat's off to you. Thank you very much.
David, I'd just like to echo that. John Yokel, it's so nice to see you back here. Thanks for your leadership during the 5 years of this long process and all the public engagement. This has really helped make our jobs a lot easier up here. Zoning challenges are things that we deal with so much more frequently than I think we ever realized we would. And it's something for which we're not as well trained, perhaps. And so having the deep guidance that this plan provides really sets a framework and helps guide decision-making all the way through. So we're very grateful for that.
This is a model of public engagement that I expect we'll have opportunities to follow in some other major initiatives. Aubrey, you want to say a few words? Aubrey McDermott, our planning director.
Thank you. This has been the community's effort. We are so proud of it because our community was ready for this plan, and they jumped on board with both feet. So we were able to talk to people that we would never otherwise have known how planning affects their daily lives. It was a wonderful, fulfilling process. We had so much great input and engagement to the plan. I feel like all of our partners, some of whom are here today, the Community Foundation was here to help us with the process. Hi, Brian, Nancy Anthony, and Leslie Hudson, and the Neighborhood Alliance. We have some other community partners. Where are we all? Citizen Advisory Team, Georgie Rasco helped us do some of our neighborhood meetings with Ashley. We just had so many different groups that helped us through that 5-year public engagement process and really felt like at the end of that process we had something the whole community could be proud of. And I might also acknowledge our Planning Commission has been there the whole way guiding us. I mean, the Planning Commission deals with zoning cases and issues that they kept lists of things. When we do our new comprehensive plan, we need to make sure that we do this. And so I'm so appreciative that the Planning Commission helped drive and support us through that whole process. and to also have our council supporting us with our citizen advisory team and participating on the citizen advisory team. So we just had tons of support and felt like at the end of the day we have a plan we can all use and get behind. So I'm accepting this on behalf of our community who really put the plan together.
Well, I'd like to recognize the staff. There was 5 years of very intensive research and analysis that was done in order to prepare the information. We had consultants come in from around the country to advise us. We had a very interested group of planning commissioners, and they stayed with the process for 5 years. Some interested city council people who participated as well, and we had wonderful information and support from citizens. And I just hope that the plan is studied, applied by both the Planning Commission and the City Council going forward. I think it's a great step for the city.
Right. All right, you've made your case. Now we need a motion and a second. All right, let's cast our votes. It passes unanimously. Congratulations. This is yours. Thank you all so much. Okay, now we're on item 3B. We've got a resolution of commendation for the April 2018 Quarterly Safety Star, Rebecca Cox. Rebecca, you want to join us up here? Clerk, if you wouldn't mind reading this resolution.
Whereas Rebecca Cox has been a city employee for 10 years and is a water service representative for the Customer Service Division of the Utilities Department. Whereas Rebecca is responsible for independently pulling and setting water meters, ensuring proper maintenance of routine water services, and exchanging information with customers concerning the disposition of complaints. Whereas Rebecca is a very safety-conscious employee who demonstrates the ability to problem solve and provide solutions for various challenges in her work section. Rebecca recently proposed a cost-effective, simple modification to minimize workplace hazards associated with the use of a valve key, a frequently used tool. Rebecca has contributed to the reduction of employee injuries for herself and coworkers through this recommendation and implementation. Whereas Rebecca Cox was selected by the City of Oklahoma City Safety Advisory Recognition Subcommittee as the most deserving employee for the Quarterly Safety Star Award. This council desires to recognize Rebecca Cox for her dedication, professionalism, and commitment to improving workplace safety within the City of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Rebecca Cox, April 2018, City of Oklahoma City Quarterly Safety Star.
Thank you. Well, this is great, Rebecca. I love this story about about how your ingenuity has improved the safety here. And again, in keeping with a theme this week, we're very grateful for your service to the people of Oklahoma City. We have the finest city employees, I think, in the country, and you are certainly a model of that. And so all that awaits you now is whether we will, in fact, approve this resolution. So is there a motion and a second? All right, we've got a motion and a second. Let's cast our votes. It is approved and unanimously, so congratulations. And so take this, and this coin also is kind of a neat little remembrance of today. So that is yours to keep as well. And you said you weren't inclined to speak.
Thank you very, very much for everything. I appreciate it a lot.
All right, let's hear it for Rebecca. And you want to acknowledge your family?
Yes, and this is my beautiful family.
All here in the front row. Thank you for coming, guys. Now we're on item 3C, resolution to recognize and commend Abby Hernandez on her selection as the May 2018 Teacher of the Month by Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. Abby, come on up here. Thank you. We're so grateful for all that you do and proud of your accomplishment. We're going to hear a little bit more about you. If the clerk would please read the resolution.
Whereas Abby Hernandez has been named Teacher of the Month for May 2018 by the Oklahoma City Public Schools and the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. Abby is a proud graduate of Mid-America Christian University, where she received her Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education in May 2011 and served as valedictorian. Whereas Abby is in her sixth year of teaching and has spent her entire career in the Oklahoma City Public Schools. She is in her fourth year at Westwood Elementary, transitioning from second grade to third grade this year. Abby's personal teaching philosophy is that every child can learn, and one of her greatest desires is to help all of her students fall in love with learning. Whereas Abby's teaching style offers a focus on small groups with an emphasis on technology. To assist her students, she presents information in understandable and interesting ways that helps them make connections with the learning goals in school and their usefulness in the real world. Whereas by making learning relevant, Abby feels that her students will become lifelong learners. She has seen a considerable difference in her students by incorporating small group activity rotations in her classroom, and she believes that her ongoing interactions with parents has also strengthened the learning environment for her students. Abby engages her students in the community by organizing a variety of experiences for them. They have made Christmas crafts and pinned letters for a local assisted living center, watched a performance at Lyric Theater, traveled to the downtown YMCA for water safety classes, and they've also visited the Science Museum. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Abby Hernandez on her selection as the May 2018 Teacher of the Month by the Oklahoma City Public Schools and the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Excellent, thank you. I want to also certainly acknowledge the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City for doing this every month, and it's a real treat to be able to present these resolutions. Thank you, Abby, for what you do. We're really grateful for you. I'm the son of a teacher. I've got 2 kids in Oklahoma City Public Schools, so it's personal to me as well. And I know that I speak for the council as well, that they really are very grateful, but they are going to have their opportunity to show that gratitude here in a moment. And so is there a motion and a second? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Why don't we go ahead and cast our votes? Passes unanimously. And you said that you'd be willing to say a few words and that you would manage to get through by imagining that everyone here is a third grader.
Well, I can't get up here and not talk about my third graders because I'm so proud of them. It's been an interesting year. I moved up from second grade with a lot of them, so I've seen them grow over 2 years and make a lot of progress and a lot of chaos that has come through our school and through all the schools in Oklahoma. I'm very, very proud of them. They're mostly ELLs. They don't always have help with homework, so they are working very hard for every little bit of growth they make. Teachers don't always like being in the spotlight. I kind of wish the kids were here instead so we could all look at them, but through opportunities like this and through the teacher walkout, I have been astounded at the support for public education in our state. It's a wonderful thing that I teach in a place where I can get stuff donated, where I can go to the Capitol if I want to, and where people stand behind me for that. So thank you so much to the whole city, the whole state, who has supported education so much lately, and I'll just try to earn this and try to deserve this a little more. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's show our appreciation. And it is, in fact, Teacher Appreciation Week in Oklahoma City Public Schools, and there's a lot of encouragement to get on donorschoose.org. Do you have a Donors Choose project?
Yes, I have one, and I'm about to have another one. So
Okay. All right. Thank you, Abby. All right. Last but absolutely not least is Yolanda Ford, our City Employee of the Month. Yolanda, if you wouldn't mind joining me up here. So this is item 3D, resolution of commendation for the May 2018 South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month, Yolanda Ford of Parks and Rec. And I would ask the clerk to read the resolution so we can learn a little bit more about Yolanda.
Whereas Yolanda Ford is a cashier too at the Civic Center Music Hall in the Parks and Recreation Department. Yolanda works with Civic Center customers to facilitate the purchasing of tickets for a variety of shows, providing information on seating and pricing to the customer satisfaction, and handling transactions in person and over the phone. Whereas Yolanda demonstrates excellent customer service and is a great representative for the City of Oklahoma City, always showing a genuine interest in each customer she works with and displaying patience and enthusiasm in every task she takes on. Whereas Yolanda also offers good advice and input when the Civic Center staff encounters obstacles. Whereas Yolanda Ford is friendly, service-minded, flexible, patient, and professional. Whereas this council desires to recognize Yolanda Ford for her dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the residents of the city of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Yolanda Ford, May 2018, South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
Thank you. Well, as I said earlier, we have the best city employees in the country, and we're recognizing them all this week, but this whole month is yours, Yolanda, because you are such a great example of diligence, professionalism, great customer service. You make our job so much easier, and thank you so much. But now, the moment of truth. Is there a motion and a second for Yolanda's resolution? I thought there was a bit of a pause there, Yolanda. Did you sense that? I thought All right, we've got a motion and a second. Let's vote. Passes unanimously. Congratulations. Yeah, let's hear it for Yolanda. Oh, you are going to say something. All of a sudden, she's really confident. Here you go, Yolanda. Let's hear it.
I just want to say thank you to the city of Oklahoma City. It's been such a huge part of my life. And the Civic Center is a wonderful place to work. I was totally surprised when I got this nomination, when I got the letter that said I won, let me just say that, and the nomination itself. I appreciate my coworkers, two of my supervisors are here, and my coworker, one who nominated me, and I just really appreciate them. I appreciate working at the Civic Center. It's such a great place to work. The patrons are wonderful. They're interesting. You learn something new all the time. So I just want to say thank you very much, and I just appreciate.
We appreciate you. Let's hear it for Yolanda one more time. Thank you. That concludes Office of the Mayor. I'm going to make my way back to the horseshoe. All right. Moving on now, we are on item 4A and B, Journal of Council Proceedings. We need a motion. We've got a motion and a second. We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. And item 5, request for uncontested continuances. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, we have several this morning, starting on page 12. Page 12, item 7, AT2. And we need to strike that and bring it back for revision and redocketing. Page 12, item 7, AT2. And moving on to page 15, item 9, A3, SPUD 1027. The applicant has requested that this item be deferred until the May 22nd meeting. Moving to page 17, under item 9F1, A, 6900 London Way, we ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item G, 1501 Southwest 26th Street, we ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item H, 10800 Southeast 29th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has repaired. Moving to 9G1, 6900 London Way, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And item G, 5725 South Chartel, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Moving to page 18. Item Q, 2016 Northwest 25th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner is secured. Item T, 1025 Southwest 47th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Under item 9H1, B, 6900 London Way, we ask that that be stricken to re-notify. Item E, 5725 South Chartel, we ask that that be stricken. The owner is secured. Item M, 2016 Northwest 25th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And item P, 1025 Southwest 47th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And then on to page 20, item 9N1F. 9N1F, we ask that that be stricken, and we'll bring that back and rework that.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to item 6A, under revocable permits, a revocable right-of-way use permit with Market Festival on Paseo to hold Market Festival on Paseo, May 26th through the 28th, on Paseo Drive between North Dewey and Northwest 28th Street. And we do have some folks here to speak. Robert Lee Clark, come on up. Please introduce yourself and state your name and address.
Okay, Robert Lee Clark, certified public accountant of Sulphur, Oklahoma. And I'm here today with my wife, Michelle Clark. Michelle is an OCU MBA. She's also the court-appointed special administrator to the estate of John R. Jacobson, her father. She and her sister are the two heirs to the estate. And I was really hoping to have Mr. Mayor come down here with me to lead this presentation with me.
Oh, okay. What are we doing? We're considering your request for a revocable permit.
All right. First of all, let me just give a word of thanks to those who assisted us here with the city. Drew Watson, I'm not sure if he's here today. He has been instrumental in helping us get this application completed, and we've already begun producing revenue for the city with our $400 application permit fee. The estate owns real estate in Paseo, consisting of a vacant tract at the southeast corner of Dewey and Northwest 28th, and the concrete parking lot directly east of there, and then the land and improvements at 2909 Paseo Drive. And it is on these grounds that we will be conducting the festival. Michelle's father passed away last October, and we embarked upon the rather tedious probate of the estate, but then it was discovered that the estate has the festival. So that injected a great deal of excitement and fun into it, and also a bit of a challenge. And we are certainly up for that challenge. We have signed approximately 80% of our anticipated vendors for the festival. And we also have the support of John's partners who are returning to help us with it. We also have our service providers lined up for all the different items that are required by the city and just to have the festival. And we're here today to seek your approval on our application for the permit.
Great. Okay. Well, is there any questions or discussion?
So this is a continuation of the Kathy's portion?
Yes, indeed.
Everything's the same as in years past?
It's primarily the same. We worked it with John last year on a limited basis and got a feel for what's involved. And then here we are this year, we're doing it ourselves.
You're coordinating with the Paseo Arts Association?
Yes, in fact, we are.
Okay. All right. Move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, esteemed Mayor.
Sure. Good luck with your event.
Greatly appreciate it.
All right, now we're moving on to 6B, a revocable right-of-way use permit with the Paseo Arts Association, Inc. to hold the Paseo Arts Festival, May 26th through the 28th on Paseo Drive between Northwest 30th and North Walker. And we do have Amanda Bleakley and Colin Rosebook here. Oh, there you are. Sometimes I look down too long, and they just magically appear. So we would love to hear from you about the Paseo Arts Festival.
Well,
Please introduce yourself and your addresses as well.
I'm Amanda Bleakley. I'm the executive director of the Paseo Arts Association, and my address is 7925 Lakehurst, Oklahoma City.
Colin Rosebrook, and I'm the chairman of the Paseo Arts Festival. And my address is 3017 Paseo, Oklahoma City.
Great.
So we're here to present the 42nd Annual Paseo Arts Festival to the city and have another great year. And do you want to tell a little bit about
So
it?
we've got about 100 artists from all over the country coming. It's a national juried artist. So we try to have quality of art and fine arts. It's also one of our main fundraisers for the community as the Paseo Artists Association.
Yep, we have 2 stages with over 50 bands booked over 3 days. We have 18 food and drink vendors and everything well planned out, ready to go.
We also have Artists of the Future area with children's area for their art. And one thing we want to make sure that everyone knows that we have planned a free shuttle for the community. You know, parking is always an issue there. If you've ever been there, there's a free shuttle at 36th and Walker where they can park for free. Shuttle brings them down. It's a rotating basis every 10 to 15 minutes. And it's a great thing for the community to be able to come out for this free event.
Great. And Mr. Rosebrook, you are the artist of the commemorative poster this year, correct? Yes. I invite everyone. It's already hanging in my outer office. So
It's, come buy a poster.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, buy one. Don't just look at mine. Are there any questions, discussion? If not, a motion from Councilman Shadid?
Yeah, move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll cast our votes. Permit passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great festival. Okay, and lastly, on this item, 6C is a revocable right-of-way use permit with Red Earth, Inc. to hold the Red Earth Parade, June 8, 2018, West Reno Avenue and West Sheridan Avenue between Ron Newark Boulevard and South Hudson Avenue. And do we have anybody here from Red Earth this morning? There you are, Eric. Please come and state your name and address.
Good morning. My name is Eric Aish, and I live at 2300 Northwest 161st Street in Mr. Stone Cypher's district.
Tell us about the parade.
Well, this year will be our 32nd annual Red Earth Festival. It's June 8, 9, and 10 at the Cox Convention Center. We'll have artists from throughout the country who will be selling their artwork. We have over 100 artists that will be participating in our event. Then we have a large powwow with over 500 dancers who will be competing for prize money. We'll attract about 10 to 20,000 people to attend our event. We'll kick it off Friday, June the 8th, with a parade that is pretty much one of the most unique parades in America. Where else will you see Native American culture, Native princesses, tribal groups in a downtown metropolitan setting? So it's a beautiful parade. It starts at 10 a.m. It will circle the Myriad Botanical Gardens. We'll have food trucks as well throughout the weekend. So one of the things that's new this year for our festival, we're expanding and including portions of the Myriad Botanical Gardens. So we'll have an outdoor venue as well as our venue inside the Cox Convention Center.
Thank you.
It is an incredibly exciting weekend in Oklahoma City for art and festivities in all quarters. So this is just a wonderful experience, and I hope everybody will come down to the Myriad Gardens on the 8th to see
You know,
it.
we think this is something as being located in Oklahoma's capital city. We like to think that we're sharing what makes Oklahoma unique. And one of the main things that makes our state and our city unique are the tribal cultures and that we have here in our state.
I would move approval, Mayor.
Yeah, we've got a motion. Second, and I concur. I mean, no state has more Native heritage than Oklahoma, and I'm so proud that Oklahoma City hosts this commemoration of that. And I've been at the parade in the past, and it's exciting, and I invite everyone to head down. And with that, if there's no further discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously.
Great.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, and Eric, tell Karen that you want to see the D.G. Smalling piece in my office, and go check it out. All right, we will now recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. This is a body that has the same membership as the council, but allows us to have different powers than the council does. And so with that, we only have one item under that. It's claims and payroll, and it is our custom to take a motion and a vote on that. We've got a motion and a second. We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. We will adjourn the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority and convene now as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. And we have a couple of items here which we can handle in one motion and vote, I am told. We've got a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Now we will adjourn the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority and convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. And we also have a couple of items here, A and B, that I'm told we can handle in one vote. We've got a motion and a second for items A and B. Seeing no discussion, we'll cast our votes. Now we will adjourn the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust and reconvene as the City Council. And we have item 7, the consent docket. We have a motion and a second to move the items subject to individual consideration. Are there any items? I know we have at least one presentation. That's item AC. Are there any items that council members would like to pull out and discuss? 7W. Okay.
And Mayor, I was just going to mention 7S.
S. Okay. Anyone else? All right. We will go in order then. Well, unless, should we do the presentation first? Okay. We'll talk about 7S then. Councilwoman Salyer.
7S is just a preliminary engineering study on some drainage improvements in the area that includes North Villa, General Pershing Boulevard, First and Pennsylvania. And it's a 2007 general bond obligation project to work on drainage in an area that's had some real challenges. And so I'm very happy to see this study occurring.
Great. 7W, Councilman Stonecipher.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a resolution approving a payment for the resurfacing of Memorial Road. And I wanted to update this a little in that the contract has been awarded. It's a $2.87 million project. It's on one of the busiest roads in Oklahoma City. In fact, there are over 26,000 vehicles that drive this road per day. And so I'm really excited about it. It goes from Portland to Pennsylvania on Memorial Road. Construction will start late June, early July, and should be through November, weather permitting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. Now we have item 7AC. This is a resolution setting a public hearing date of May 22nd, 2018 for a proposed amendment to the fiscal year 2018 budget, and there is a short presentation to accompany that.
And Doug Dollar is here to make that presentation. Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be here to introduce this budget amendment. As we're getting near the end of fiscal year 18, we've got a few changes that we're requesting your approval on. The first is in the Court Administration and Training Fund. This is a fund that handles a lot of the pass-through fees that we collect for the state through our court system. The state raised a number of those fees this past year. We didn't have that included in our budget, so we've collected more than we expected, and we need additional budget authority to be able to send that money to the state. We've got a second change in the Court Administration and Training Fund that relates to municipal courts. We're going to close down that fund and just handle those as basically as a trust and agency. Those really aren't our funds that we collect for the state. We're going to handle those in a different way. And so there is some administrative funds that have been there that we've been able to collect over the years, about $600,000. We'll be transferring that out of the fund so we can close that down at the end of the year. And so that the total budget change for court administration and training is $1,260,000. In the general fund, we're amending the budget to receive that $600,000 from the court administration and training fund. There's again those administrative funds that have been collected over the years. Our accounting department asked us that we move those funds into the general fund, but we want to still maintain that court nature to it, so we're going to move those out to the capital improvement projects funds so that that'll just be available for courts to use for their purposes. So it's kind of an in and out of the general fund, just again to maintain the accounting record there. In the hotel motel special revenue fund, hotel motel taxes have come in higher than we anticipated in the current year, and so we're asking for additional budget authority. Part of our requirements under our revenue bonds that we have is that all revenue we receive in hotel motel tax flows through the trustee bank that the bond says, and then they send whatever is not needed for debt service back to us. So we've collected more than we expected in hotel motel tax. We need additional authority there. And then also on the part that's reserved for state fairgrounds, when the fund balance gets high enough, we generally transfer over a portion of that to the state fair to use for capital maintenance and smaller capital projects at the state fairgrounds. And so we've got about $735,000 we estimate will be above the kind of minimal level we want to make sure we retain in the hotel motel tax. So total of $1,970,000 in the hotel motel tax. And then in the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools, or MAPS for Kids, sales tax fund. A couple of months ago, the MAPS for Kids Trust was dissolved as those projects are winding down. We're going to be taking the remaining balance that's in the MAPS for Kids Trust, putting it back into the sales tax fund where it was originally collected. They have a few projects that they're wrapping up, and we need budget authority to continue those projects, about $4 million there. And then finally, Zoo Sales Tax Fund. Again, sales taxes come in better than expected. We transfer all of the zoo sales tax fund that we receive over to the Zoological Trust, and so we need $484,000 to make that transfer. So in total, we're looking at about $8,300,000 in an increase in the FY18 budget. That's in the current year budget. The total budget would be $444,015,692. And so the resolution today is just to introduce this amendment. We'll publish notice in the papers, and then in 2 weeks vote on the final adoption. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that was all the items that anyone had mentioned. Has anyone had any further requests? I would also note that items AF all the way through AO are related to MAPS 3. So MAPS 3 work is certainly very heavy right now. I don't think we have any other comments from me, any discussion. We will, did we have a yeah, we had a motion and a second, so just accepting the one item that the city manager deferred earlier in the meeting, we would cast a vote on the remaining items as one group. Seeing no discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Moving on to the concurrence docket. We have a motion and a second to move all of the items under item 8, the concurrence docket. Any discussion? Any individual items for individual consideration? Seeing none, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9. These are items requiring separate votes. And 9A, ordinance on final hearing, recommended for approval. Actually, A1, I should say, ABC2, alcoholic beverage consumption restaurant with alcohol district overlaying the SPUD 829. Is there anyone here, or actually, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Salyer, would you like to talk about this?
That's okay. Mayor, is there anyone here signed up to speak on this item? No. This is a ABC2 overlay for a new restaurant called Anatomy Wine Club at 1600 Northwest 16th Street. The applicant is Hunter Wheat, who I think many of you know has very successfully operated Blue Garden at 10th and Hudson for a number of years, and we look forward to the new facility, so I would move approval.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9A2, ABC2, alcoholic beverage consumption restaurant with alcohol district overlaying the C3 district, 3100 North Walker. Councilman Shadid?
Anybody sign up to speak? No. I move for approval as it had unanimous planning commission approval and no protest.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. No further discussion. We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9A4, because you will recall 9A3 was deferred. 9A4 is 804 Northwest 65th Street from R1 single family to SPUD 1042. Councilman Shadid?
Anybody sign up? I move for approval.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. No further discussion. We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. We've got 9B1 and 2. Well, we have some folks here, but we'll start with, so amendment to section 1.5, et cetera, of the master design statement, and an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, SPUD 967 at 8324 Candlewood Drive. If I recall correctly, Councilman Griner, this was deferred from a couple weeks ago. Would you like to talk about it?
We deferred that because it was the first time I'd heard about any protest on it, and so last week I met with the applicant and the protester together, and we discussed some stuff. And so I think we should probably start with the applicant let him kind of just talk about the changes that he's made to the SPUD, and then we'll hear from anybody who's signed up.
Good morning, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, who is Mr. Chris Cheatwood. He's also here with me. As Councilman Griner said, we did have the opportunity to meet on site. We did walk over and talk to the neighbor to the west who had showed up at council meeting last time to voice some concerns. There were three main concerns from what I gather that were emailed to me late yesterday by an attorney representing her, that he asked in an email that Councilman Griner has if we could agree to those. It was his understanding that we could resolve the issue. The three items were no loading or unloading of the cars within the public right-of-way. We're certainly not allowed to do that, but we have added that into the SPUD master design statement to make sure that it's codified in the ordinance. Two, that we take down the auto repair sign that's currently on site. We agree to take down those words. We'd ask for 90 days just because there's a cost associated with that. And finally, limit the use for the auto repair to just that repair that's necessary for and accessory to the towing services. So all three of those items are agreeable. We probably need to, I guess, add another TE to accomplish that, but we agree with all those items. I emailed the attorney back first thing this morning before I walked over here that we are in fact agreeable to that. After our meeting, I did email a copy of the revised SPUD that came from that meeting. We met on May 1st. After that afternoon, I emailed a copy of the SPUD to the councilman, as well as to the neighbor, including my client on it, adding the unloading, loading issue into the SPUD, into that master design statement. I never heard back from the neighbor until late yesterday when I received that email from the attorney. But again, she did have that. We do agree to those changes. So with that, I was not aware of any other issues, any other people that might have concerns, but this was continued multiple times through the Planning Commission process. If you recall, this is a bit unusual in that this site is zoned straight C3. If you look at our SPUD now, I believe it only has 4 uses. So going from something that's zoned straight C3 to only 4 uses, and those 4 uses are all tied to the one use that my client needs for towing, is a significant reduction in the intensity for which this site could be developed. What that means is if my client's operation somehow fails, the next person is going to have to come in and get a rezoning. And I'm almost willing to guarantee that the Planning Commission and this council won't give straight C3. So what the end result is a much less intense zoning for both the neighbor to the west and the neighbors that exist to the north and the east. And if you also recall, one of the items that was of great importance at the Planning Commission stage is the existence of a metal fence. So what we've agreed to do is an 8-foot metal fence on our south and an 8-foot metal fence on all the west-facing pieces of my client's property. So everything that faces Candlewood Drive will be 8-foot and metal. That'll help not only my client with security, but also help with the visual appearance up and down Candlewood Drive. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So how many people?
We have 2 protesters.
Let's hear from them then.
You want them to come up? Okay, Mr. Charles Musson. Okay, this is the order they were handed to me. Debbie Roach, then, if you prefer.
We had someone appear late. She didn't get to turn in her yellow card.
Okay, sure. Do you mind pulling the microphone down to your...
I'm short. Are you making a joke about that? This is Began Love. She is actually the manager of the apartment complex right there by his property. It shows I'm the auto repair, and then it shows another auto repair. That's actually a body shop. That's her apartments there. One of the biggest things that we're concerned about is the safety issue. He doesn't have any way for anybody to pull in, turn around, and come out his other exit. We're having cars backing out, causing traffic jams. They're unloading. I showed you the pictures 2 weeks ago. We would have been at some of the first protests, but none of us were advised that this was going on. When I came last time, that was my first time of being advised about it. They never was, and neither was the neighborhood association. And so we had the meeting here last time, and my Ward 1 councilman agreed that we would get together and talk. I would have called that a meeting if somebody would have called and set up a meeting. I was at work the other day, and I had 4 large men all come pounce in my door and ready to talk about this. I am a business person. I do run a business. I had a customer sitting in my lobby. I told him, well, you know, what kind of choice do I have? Because now we're only a week before this hearing. Again, if you looked at the pictures that I sent around, he doesn't have adequate parking. I'd like to ask you, where did you park when you went over? Did you park in his lot? When you went over to visit?
I was unsure on where to park.
That's our problem. He wasn't sure where to park. He parked in Nino's parking lot. There is not adequate parking to substantiate a business here. It's been an oil change. It was an oil change for approximately, I think, 15, 20 years before I opened, and I've been open 25 years. We've tried to keep a nice-looking neighborhood. We are in a good area, and he doesn't do anything to keep that property up. He's finally moved cars he had for sale, but if you look at the fencing that he has, there's nowhere to park. So they're parking in my lot, and then, you know, we've had them park in the street, and it's a curve there. It's so dangerous. She has a lot of tenants that walk.
That exit, my exit is literally category across from where he wants to rezone. And so that's the only exit out into my apartment complex. And so when it is backed up there, a lot of my residents complain on not being able to get out in the mornings during the business hours, and most definitely when they get home from work. Because that's my only exit, which is directly, kind of cattle corner directly across where his.
We're just having terrible problems about 5:30 at night if there's anything going on over there. He has tried to, looks like he's tried to stop us after hours, but they just wait till I leave now. And then it all pops out. So I'm just real concerned that we keep our neighborhood good. We've really let a lot of neighborhoods go down, and I'm an automotive repair, but I keep a very neat and tidy shop. I have never had any complaints. I'm in good standing with the city. I pay all my bills, all my taxes. I'm a good business for the neighborhood. I've got many customers. They all love us and appreciate us, but I've had a lot of people complaining because, again, my exits are right across from his. And so I've got parts trucks trying to get in, people trying to get in, and we've got cars unloading out in the street. It's a bad safety issue. And it's been a successful business before it became a towing facility. It's been an oil change, and it's had adequate parking and everything, but he has no assigned parking places. It's like they park in our lot, and then they're rude to us when we ask them, you know, can you park across the street where your business is, because I do run a very, very busy business, and I use my whole parking lot, and I don't know how he's going to do it in that little one of his. So I'd just like for you to consider the safety of our citizens.
Okay. And my residents that is exiting out of Boulder Ridge Apartments.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Musson, would you like to speak now? And if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address.
Okay. Charles Chuck Musson, 6704 Eastwood Circle, Oklahoma City, Ward 1. The reason I'm here is because, well, twofold. I'm the president of the Rock Knoll Homeowners Association, which is straight up Candlewood, and Candlewood's one of the main two entrances into our 303 home residence neighborhood. I'm also a real estate appraiser, and I brought, if anyone's interested, I ran copies of the county assessor records, just all the addresses on Candlewood Drive. There are 33 listed, 3 being commercial properties. One of those is closed. The other 2 are the 2 parties here. There's also the large apartment complex, Boulder Ridge, right across the street. The rest of the 33 are all listed as residential. I have others I can pass out. Council members are interested in getting copies. Street with a few little commercial uses down close to Northwest Expressway. And so I think that's key. I personally, in the past, that was built as an oil lube shop, and it was agreed to coordinate with the neighborhood that they'd have their colors coordinated, and it looked nice. It was earth tone colors, fit right in. Then later on, a taxi cab company bought it, painted the building yellow, operated a chop shop out of there. I called code enforcement and zoning at least a dozen times to get their fence fixed and this and that and the other. Now they've sold to Bad Day Towing, which has painted the building light purple. And we've heard the concerns of the adjoining neighbors. Again, being an appraiser, I have a tendency to look at zoning regs and things, and these are just the quick comments, but C3 district intended for business located at the edge of residential areas, but surging enlarging area. Because the varied use permitted, it's important to separate them as much as possible, both visually and physically, from any nearby residential areas, and to limit the harmful effects of increased traffic, noise, and general non-residential activity generated. That's under C3. And Article 6 of the zoning basic districts. Then, here's another one under the same category. Adequate space shall be provided on private property to provide for parking, loading, and maneuvering of vehicles in accordance with regulations established by Article 12, off-street parking, loading, and access of this chapter, which we've heard about. Ultimately, as my conclusion, this is a unique little space, but the last two people that tried to use it bring in a heavy industrial commercial use, and it's really intended for a light commercial industrial use. And that's basically my point, because we want the neighborhood to stay good. We've worked long and hard with other neighborhoods on projects with Councilman Greiner, who's been helpful to us in the past and all. And I thought it was important enough to come to the council today in this matter, because if I understand the SPUD, it gives them the special opportunity to expand or change the PUD requirements. The councilman says, you know, they're going to reduce it, but they're still going to do the same action that they've been doing. I'm concerned about a SPUD because, in effect, it has the opportunity to give them a King's X. That's all I have to say. My concern is with my neighborhood and the overall area and the values and the appearance. And by the way, the building, last time I drove by yesterday, has 3 or 4 neon signs. The signage has been removed, but the frame's still there, and the fluorescent bulbs are standing out and showing. There's a fence that separates this property with the adjacent residential duplex. It's the commercial property's responsibility to keep fencing between them and residential property. There were missing pickets. Well, they put some in, but the missing pickets should have been about 4 foot tall. They put 8 foot tall pickets in, didn't even cut them to measure with the others. So we've got a throw together fence. And I think that's an indication of the type of business that they tend to be. There are multiple places in this city where a record service can operate, will have the loading area and access to main streets, not on a residential street, and service Oklahoma City well. That's all I have, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Musson.
Well, I think Mr. Musson hit the central issue, and that is whether or not this use is compatible. Our staff, by looking at our comprehensive plan, has said that it is compatible. Our planning commission determined that it's compatible. And so for us as a city council to say that it's not compatible, it's going to be really hard to defend that in a court. And I think that a lot of the things that are put into this SPUD do protect the neighborhood and the people around it. And I encourage everybody that if you see something that's going on this property that shouldn't be going on, please turn it in as many times as you can, because nobody wants it to be unsafe out there, and each property owner should stay on their own property. So, but I don't see any other protections that we can put into the SPUD that would make it better. There might be, but with that, I'll move for approval.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve item 9B1 for starters. Mr. Box, do you? Okay. Is there any other discussion or?
I guess the only question I have, the amendments that Mr. Box talked about, are they a part of your motion? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion for approval includes all of the concessions that Mr. Box articulated a moment ago. Ms. Roach? Sure. Step to the microphone and state it.
I don't think he said there was going to be a 8-foot fence on the north side of his property. He said south and west. I'm wondering why we're not doing the north and the other. Those still back up to residential areas.
Councilman?
I mean, the reason is that was never brought up as an issue that really needed to be addressed.
None of us knew about these meetings until last time.
Well, I mean, I looked at the application, and something was sent to all the surrounding areas. I mean, it didn't look like anything was missed. But
I mean, that's our biggest concern. The fence Mr. Musson talked about is the one that's missing the pickets. And we've actually, that first duplex there, we've had a lot of problems with children somehow accessing from behind his property, and before he put up the front fence, getting through and climbing through and burglarizing the first, the duplexes there. We've had a lot of problems with that. So that's why I think we should have one on the north side of that business too.
And east?
And the east. I think it should be all the way around it.
Okay. Would the applicant be willing to add that to the SPUD?
We don't believe that there is a problem, the cost. He has 8 foot on the east. He's going to add the 8 foot on the south. He's adding the 8 foot on the west. The individuals that live in that complex are noticeably absent from this hearing to complain about any issues. You were out with me May 1st. I didn't see any missing pickets. He replaces them when and if they get kicked in. Again, he's changing. The problems he's having is on the south, where he has those restaurants and auto repair on the other side. So by going to a metal fence on that, we're going to alleviate the problem of people kicking in the pickets and accessing that site. So we believe the fencing on the north is adequate.
Okay. Any further discussion? We already have the motion, including the concession stated by Mr. Box, and a second. And I would just add, I mean, I know Mr. Musson to be a longtime advocate for Rock Knoll, and but I think, it is my inclination to be deferential to the councilman from Ward 1, who I think you heard made a commitment to follow through on these concessions. And if you have complaints with the activities in the future, I know he'll make sure that they're followed up on. And so with that, if there's no further discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. There's item 9B2 as well. Councilman?
Move for approval.
Motion? There's a motion and a second on that item. Any discussion? Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9C1, amendment to the master design statement to establish hours of operation. It's also relating to item C2, ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, SPUD 1044 at 6120 North Drexel Boulevard. Councilman Shadid.
Did anybody sign up to speak? This had unanimous planning commission approval and no protest. I move for approval.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second on item 9C1. Seeing no discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. And then item 9C2. Councilman Shadid.
Move for approval.
We've got a motion and a second. Can the city manager bring some coffee in? I think we're getting a little Getting a little slow on the seconds. There's seeing no further discussion. We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. We've got item 9D1, amendment to the master design statement to include screening along Northwest 64th Street and limit one drive on North Independence. And then item 9D2, ordinance on final hearing, SPUD 1045 at 3301 Northwest 63rd. Councilman Shadid. And we do have someone who has signed up on this item, and Councilman Fielding Yost.
Should we hear from them?
If you wish. Yep. Absolutely. Mr. Yost, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, stating your name and address.
Fielding Yost, 3313 Northwest 64th Street. I'm just wanting to try to find out what we're going to do with the rezoning that business on 63rd and Independence. I live on 64th, just off Independence. I'm just curious as to find out if it's going to affect our neighborhood adversely. If anybody could tell me that, I'd appreciate
it. Is the applicant here?
Is the applicant here? Yes. Oh, okay. Great.
So have you had previous meetings or?
I have. The only discussion I've had, I went over to it's an eye doctor's office. I went and talked to him, and he told me what they had planned on doing, but he was a little bit shaky about it. But so that's the only contact I've had with anyone. Yes.
Do you have specific questions that you'd like?
Well, I'm just wanting to know how it's going to affect. I live on 64th Street right off Independence. I want to know how that's going to affect that neighborhood, traffic-wise. I don't know. That's just what I'm trying to find out.
Interject here. I'm
sure. And what's your name and address?
Derek Michael, 3309 Northwest 64th, just to the adjacent property there as well. I think we just have a few concerns, just because of the notice that we were sent didn't have any specifics, and so currently there's a clear differentiation in between the current zoning of the business and our residential community that lies behind it. And there's a clear barrier right now in the form of shrubbery that differentiates the property line from business to residential. There's not much traffic that occurs there. We do have many kids. I have a couple of children myself. Building has grandkids that play on this street. In addition, there's an Independence charter school, and those kids often walk across the street and around the neighborhood, around our neighborhood, for their extracurricular activities and during recess and such. And so the primary concerns would be limiting access and drive and maintaining the differentiation of what is currently a business and residential. And I would say that the two concerns to that are, a landscape or fencing barrier, number one, and then the question of limiting the drive on 64th, not necessarily Independence. And then number three is how far are we going to extend that parking lot into our residential area? Because currently the line is significantly reduced from where it is outlined on the plot that we were sent.
So we might hear from the applicant, because this has certain stipulations that the Planning Commission wanted. For example, there's access is limited to one drive on Independence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 6-foot wood site-proof fencing along the street right away on 64th Street. And then that's required, less and except site triangles at 64th and Independence.
Would they be doing anything north of that fence that you're talking about, between that and 64th Street itself? There's a current barrier there. Is that going to go further towards 64th, or is it going to stay where it's at? I guess is the question.
Maybe we should hear from the applicant. I'm not sure of that.
If he can just address the boundary that exists, and if it's going to extend past the current boundary, because there's a clear differentiating line of what is residential and business with the current boundary, and it appears with the stakes and the outline on the plan that it's going to extend well beyond that and into the residential community and infringe on that. And then I would also concur that, some beautification beyond a 6-foot wood panel fence in the form of some landscape or something would occur. And if we can limit the infringement into that residential area, that'd be nice to hear from that.
Okay. If the applicant wouldn't mind saying your name and address.
Mark Ferris, 2933 South Bryant Avenue. To start with, the use will not change. It will still be a surgery center. Specifically, there will be a 6-foot stockade fence set a minimum of 4 feet off the right-of-way of 64th Street. And within that 4-foot zone, as required by the Planning Commission, it will be landscaped. So effectively, the open wrought iron fence and landscaping will be moved north approximately 18 feet. The stockade or the wrought iron fence will be replaced with a 6-foot site-proof fence, and the landscaping will be reestablished on the north side of the fence.
And the landscaping is 4 foot, at least 4 foot high, or?
I don't think they have chosen the landscape material as of yet.
It says a 4-foot landscape buffer shall be provided along the north property line.
That would be the width, would be the minimum width. We will make that as wide as possible. If we can go 5 or 6 feet, we certainly will. But that will be on the north side of the stockade fence. So the residents along 64th Street will effectively see a landscaped buffer, and behind that would be a 6-foot stockade fence.
Well, you're bringing a commercial piece of property with 4 foot from 64th Street. Right now, I don't know.
It's 18 feet.
It's 18
right
feet, so now you're going to move
that's
that
considerably into the infringing on the
in the
residential
neighborhood.
community.
That's coming into the neighborhood
versus where it's at now. That 18-foot setback is consistent with the fence line of all the other residences.
Right.
If you can pull the graphic up. If you don't mind. If you look on the south side of Northwest 64th Street currently, where the line
Where
is,
that
that's
line is.
consistent. Not the dotted line, but the line just below that. That's consistent where his current barrier is, and he's proposing, I guess, to bring an additional 14 foot over, which would be in line with the curb, and that's considerably into the neighborhood. And I don't know what the purpose of it is. If it's just parking, awning, or if he's considering extending the office space, but it would definitely be, a detriment to the residents. I would ask that it was maintained at the current boundary with the existing landscape.
When did you first hear about?
With the letter that we received in
when was that?
I didn't get notification.
I don't know when I received it.
I was just notified yesterday from Fielding. I didn't receive notification. He's my neighbor, and he came and said, "You know what they're planning on doing?" And I said, "No," and I looked at this, and that's the only notification I have. So I didn't.
So ideally, we would have some kind of meeting between the applicant and the neighborhood before, and not have kind of negotiations here at the council. I wonder if we could defer this and have the applicant.
I'll certainly be happy to meet.
We could meet in the next week or so. Would that be acceptable? Certainly. Okay. I move for deferral for 2 weeks until the next city council meeting.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second for a deferral, and any other discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously, so that'll be deferred for 2 weeks.
Where should we look to set the meeting?
Can you check in this office here with Boyd?
Yeah, absolutely.
Boyd Fulton. All right. Moving on, 9E, ordinance on final hearing, closing an alleyway north of 141 Northeast 13th Street. Councilman Pettis.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in reference to the old Wall Court building. With that said, I move for approval.
We've got a motion and a second. That's an exciting project. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9F1, public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Some of these items were deferred as per the city manager earlier. Is there anyone here to talk about any of these structures? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for item 9F2, resolution declaring structures are dilapidated.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9G1, public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Some of these items were deferred per the city manager. Is there anyone here to talk about any of the items under 9G1? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for item 9G2, a resolution declaring that the structures are unsecured. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9H1, public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. Some of these items were deferred per the city manager. Is there anyone here to talk about any of the items under 9H1? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for item 9H2, resolution declaring that buildings are abandoned. We've got a motion and a second. Seeing any discussion? None. We'll cast votes. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9I1, resolution authorizing the municipal councilor to confess judgment without admitting liability in the case of Tabor v. City of OKC. Do we need an executive session? No. We do not. And so I would entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9J, we will enter into executive session to receive confidential communications regarding pending mediation in the case of OKC v. 23 SAC self-storage, and this does require a vote to go into executive session. We've got a motion and a second. No discussion. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We will go into executive session after the conclusion of our other business. Item 9K, enter into executive session to receive confidential communications regarding Neely v. City of OKC. This does require a vote and a motion. Got a motion and a second. We'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. We will do that after the conclusion of our other business. We would also like to enter into executive session for item 9L to receive communications regarding Philip Williams v. City of OKC et al. This needs a vote. Motion and a second. You guys are doing great. Seeing no discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. And we will do that executive session at the conclusion of our other business. Item 9M, enter into executive session to receive confidential communications regarding potential participation as a claimant in litigation known as State of Oklahoma versus Purdue Pharma. This needs a vote. Motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, we'll cast our votes. Passes unanimously. We will handle that as well after our other business. And now we're on 9N1, claims recommended for denial. One of these was deferred by the city manager earlier. Is there anyone here to speak on any of the claims recommended for denial? Do we need to enter into executive session? We do not. Is there any discussion? We've got a motion and a second to approve item N1, claims recommended for denial. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 10A1, claims recommended for approval. Is there anyone here to speak about any of the claims recommended for approval? Seeing no one, do we need executive session? We do not. Is there a motion? We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Whew, we did it. Okay, now we're on to items from council. And we will start at Ward 8 today. Councilman Stone-Cipher.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Councilman Greenwell, anything for this morning? Go to the order.
Yes. I know it may not be widely accepted, but I would suggest that our representative to ACOG look into or make a recommendation that ACOG looks into information, the most current information on weather modification, both intentionally and unintentionally, such as cloud seeding. I don't think it should be the City of Oklahoma City's sole responsibility to look into the latest information. And just a couple of months ago, the American Meteorology Society held their 21st or 23rd annual conference on weather modification. And they've got interesting stories about what's going on in China, what's going on in Israel, as well as in certain parts of the United States. I just think we should at least become better aware of what's happening. And then once we become better aware of what's going on as far as research in this area, then collectively make a decision, should we want to participate in any of those activities, as opposed to not doing anything and us entering into a drought with the problems we saw back in 2012 and 2013 with respect to a lot of issues in terms of within the city area of water line breaks, things like that, as well as the wildfires in the more rural areas. And these wildfires, that's where ACOG comes into play. It should be a joint responsibility with the counties within our area to look into this and try to, if possible, do anything to take advantage of the most recent research and technology. Having said that, I understand, I recognize the story of Babel, the Tower of Babel, and the consequences of trying to interfere with nature and trying to take on too big of a role. But I would still at least look into it and see what's out there as far as the most recent research. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Salyer, we just skipped over you a moment ago. Are you,
Sorry.
do you have anything?
I have nothing today.
Okay. Am I right?
Yeah, just like to thank you, Mayor, for coming out to our ribbon cutting at the corner of Northwest 23rd and Meridian to commemorate the development of a streetscape package that's taken about 6 years to develop, the purpose of which is to re-energize the commercial and residential area along 23rd Street. Christy Yeager, I'd like to thank her for her efforts, and then also the citizens, Kim Lowe and Barbie Smalley from the Windsor Area Business Group, who have put countless hours behind this to make this a success. Thank you, Your Honor.
Congratulations to you on that project. I know that's been a passion of yours. Councilman Shadid? All right. Moving on to item 12A through E, City Manager Reports. The floor is yours, Mr. Couch.
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, we had scheduled a presentation on one of the council priorities, a robust local economy, that we put off due to the length of the council meeting, and so we're going to bring that back today, and Doug Dollar is going to kick us off.
Right, this is one of our regular updates on the council priorities. This one, encourage a robust local economy. The priority is a strong economy that supports job creation and improves the local tax base is fundamental to our growth. To make Oklahoma City an attractive option for current and future residents and promote a pro-business environment that makes it clear we value the contribution of a strong business community. Council recognizes the need to foster innovation and embrace technological advances to move our city forward. So today, to talk about the 3 progress indicators that we've got, we have Brent Bryant, the Economic Development Projects Manager, who'll talk about employment levels and average weekly earnings, and Mark Cranenberg, Director of Airports, to talk about employments at Will Rogers Airport.
Thank you, Doug. Since 2010, the number of jobs in the Oklahoma City MSOA have averaged about 1.82% annual growth. Had a low in January of 2010 of 571, and we finished February at 655,000 jobs. Average weekly earnings over the same time frame has averaged about 1.77% annual growth, with a low in January of 07 of 683 in January of 07. The last 12 months, though, we've seen earnings top out in July at $845, and then they started to decline again in February. I've talked to some local economists about why we see that, and they say a lot of times you'll see a decline in that part of the year because we've seen a higher proportion growth of jobs that were in the service sector, and the service sectors provide lower wage jobs. Ways that we support the creation of jobs is through our strategic investment program. It's funded through the city's general obligation limited tax bonds. It's a performance-based program that requires prospects to have an annual payroll of $1.75 million or create 50 jobs. In 2007, the citizens authorized the $75 million general obligation bond program, and then they approved an additional $60 million in 2017. Again, it's designed to complement the state's quality jobs program, and we utilize the chamber to manage our application process. Current policy allows, this is a performance-based program, and jobs are not paid until investment and jobs are verified. We utilize clawbacks when we provide all or a portion of the funds up front. Typically that happens when we provide some level of infrastructure. Key industries include aerospace, new to market, and manufacturing. Companies are required again to provide information job creation information along with investment prior to payment. One thing I wanted to point out is the wage requirement right now is $46,628. Our current policy allows us to go to 90% of that when we modified the policy a couple years ago. In addition to that, if a company is locating in a enterprise zone, we can go down to 80%, and that's to try to spur investment, job creation in low-income areas. Since completion, or since the current, since 2007, we have completed 19 projects with a little over 5,000 jobs, annual payroll of around $290 million, and a capital investment just under $200 million. We currently have 26 new or active projects. In total, we anticipate the creation of 12,000 jobs with a little over $1 billion investment and an annual payroll of $765 million. Regarding the expansion of our sales tax base, we have a program that was approved by the City Council in 2008. Again, it's a performance-based program that promotes new-to-market and regional draws to that. Again, we use a rebate structure to that, basically, again, along the performance-based approach that we take on these things. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. All right.
I have two. When, so the 90%, 80%, and then looking at strategic industries, you talked about warehouse distribution. What would you think of the Amazon Fulfillment Center as potentially qualifying for those kind of incentives?
To me, that's more of, I kind of look at that as fulfillment type center, or somewhat of it's not manufacturing, but I guess you just view it as a fulfillment type center.
So, I mean, is that something that could,
Yes.
And
again, it's a thing, it's a position where they're creating jobs and they're selling goods and services, providing a service in which they're providing it outside of the local economy. And so I think that would be something that might qualify.
The bulk of those jobs, I understand, are between $10 and $15 an hour. So $10 an hour for a family, 2 kids, that's right at the poverty line. How do you...
Those type of jobs would not qualify for our program.
So you would just throw, or do you do an average? And if the average comes up to 46,000, then they get credit for all the jobs?
I really can't speak in hypotheticals right here, but if you have, again, 50 jobs with the average job of $46,000, those kind of jobs would qualify for our program.
But in the past, we've averaged the salaries.
Yeah, we'll do that, but it's an aggregate of all of those jobs has to equal the $46,000. If it's anything less, then those jobs do not qualify.
Okay. I'm curious what you think. Last week or in the last 2 weeks, Steve Lockmeyer wrote about the Amazon Fulfillment Center, and he talked in there about that the Cabela's representative, he said he reported this before, I don't remember it, but the Cabela's representative indicated to him that they really didn't need the sales tax rebate incentive, that they were going to come here anyway.
They clearly did not represent that to us.
Didn't represent that to us.
That's correct.
I would assume so, or else we would have heard. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, if he's saying, if he's negotiating with you and he's telling you, we need these incentives, and then once he gets them, he's sharing with a local journalist that we really didn't need them, but since they're available, we'd be crazy not to ask for them. I mean,
We evaluate each one on an individual basis. At the time, based upon the representatives of Cabela's, we thought it was necessary to bring them.
If you recall, we courted, I mean, we met with Cabela's year after year at the annual ICSC conference try to get them to look at Oklahoma City. So, I mean, we do that, and each year we go out there and try to bring new to market companies to Oklahoma City. And that's one of our goals to, again, expand the sales tax base. So,
I mean, I personally am hurt and angered if they came and lied to you and misrepresented that they needed these incentives to come here, and then as soon as they got them, they gloated with a local journalist that they didn't really need them, and they asked for them because they were available. I mean, to me, that's dishonest, and they were not honest when they sat down with you. I'm hurt and angered. Thanks.
Mark Cranenberg.
Good morning, Mark Cranenberg, Airports Department. I'm accompanied by Karen Carney this morning, and she actually runs our Air Service Development Program, so it's good that she's here, and she also does a great job as our Public Information and Marketing Coordinator. So we want to continue our discussion about encouraging a robust economy, and I want to come at it from an air service perspective. Air service is one benchmark of the economic health of a community. So when a community is growing or thriving, it can attract more air service. And that air service can also reflect in the growth of certain sectors of the economy. I'd like to give you a couple of examples. Several years we were working with United Airlines to try to bring nonstop service between Oklahoma City and San Francisco. But it was the bioscience sector that was growing in Oklahoma City that actually caused United Airlines to pull the trigger on that service, and we've had that sustained for many years. Another good example is Alaska Airlines. We were working on Alaska for a long time with service to Seattle. There's obviously a connection between Oklahoma City and Seattle with Boeing. There's also oil and gas industry that is flourishing in the state of Alaska, and as well as a very strong tourism component in the Great Northwest. You can also have air service options that encourage more people to fly, and that further stimulates the economy, and employments are just one measurement of evaluating the impact of air service. So one of the progress indicators of this priority is to track the number of employments at Will Rogers World Airport. So I think we should define employment for the public. It's an airline industry term that basically means it's a revenue boarding passenger. Looking at our history over the last few years, you can see from fiscal years FY 15, 16, and 17, our employments were fluctuating, or our boarding passengers were fluctuating slightly up and slightly down. However, we've had some increases in air service and upgauging of aircraft. So in fiscal year 2018, which ends June 30, we're actually projecting just slightly less than 2 million boarding passengers. And for fiscal year 2019, we'll be projecting slightly above 2 million. I will say that in January through March of 2018, we are 11% higher on our boarding passenger numbers from that same time period last year. With regard to our air service development program, we pretty much employ three basic strategies. We regularly meet with the airlines. Karen will attend at least 2 air service conferences a year, where we, in conjunction with our air service consultant, will meet with 8 to 10 different airlines and have many presentations, either on incumbent service that we have today and evaluate how those are doing, or also mainly to target new opportunities. We also, for cases that have a very strong case, we will actually go to an airline's headquarters and make a targeted presentation. We have done that with Southwest and Delta and also with United. And we have frequent contact with carriers throughout the year. We also work very hard to keep our low cost to the carriers. We have a Leading for Results measure that I'll talk about later this month in my budget presentation, where we try to keep our cost per enplane passenger to less than 5% a year increase. And we've done that very well over the last few years. Oklahoma City is a small hub airport, and the median cost per enplane passenger for a small hub airport is $8.27. We are at a low $6.66. And we also provide marketing and operational incentives for desired air service. This is a picture of our route map, and we have very good air service, especially nowadays from the east or to the east and west coast. People are often surprised about our route map and how good our service is. Except for the Boston Logan Airport, we serve every major market from Will Rogers World Airport. So there are some issues that can also impact air service, and these are sometimes external factors. With regard to the economy, if you look back at the financial recession that happened in the mid-2000s, as well as the high fuel prices, airlines react to those external issues, and basically they have constrained their networks over the entire country. So a lot of airports lost some degree of air service during that time frame. There are also operational advantages or also operational changes that the airlines will make in their route networks, and a couple of those are, if you recall, the Wright Amendment was sunsetted, and so Southwest Airlines is now making different decisions on what markets it chooses to fly to. And there have been a lot of airline mergers over the last few years. One I want to point out to you was we had service twice a day to Cleveland Hopkins Airport for many years, but when United merged with Continental, United made the conscious decision to draw down their hub in the Cleveland area, and so we lost that connection opportunity to the Northeast. That's all I have for you with regard to employments this morning. I will talk a little bit more in depth about our air service and some of the successes we've had when I have my budget presentation at the end of this month. Be happy to answer any questions, and I have Karen who can answer those as well. Thank you.
Did I hear right about a new service to Austin, new flight service?
Yes, 2 weeks ago, Via Airlines started. They are a 50-seat regional jet. They are starting markets in several cities, Tucson. They'll be starting in Tulsa too. They typically have a strategy of going like a round-robin type, maybe servicing 2 or 3 cities, and they'll be doing daily service, I should say 6 times a week service between Oklahoma City and Austin nonstop.
Anything else new we should know about?
Well, a couple of things we're excited about. American Airlines announced that they will start Philadelphia on June the 7th. That is huge for us because that presents lots of connecting opportunities to dozens of cities through the Northeast. I think they're starting with 2 flights in the morning, which is pretty strong. And this works really well because of their transatlantic bank of departures that's in the afternoon. So we're very excited about that. Also, American Airlines has made the conscious decision to upgauge many of their aircraft in the summertime. So actually this summer we're going to have several hundred more seats available on American aircraft than what we had last summer. So again, we're looking for employment numbers to jump up a little bit because of that.
Can I ask you also about Amazon? And I guess we can talk about this during the budget, but in the media reports are that they would pay a rent of about $242,000 a year to the airport trust. Would that be the market rate, or would that be subsidized?
Yes. Well, any non-aeronautical development that we do has to be at a fair market value, and so we comp those with other developments that are off airport. So that's how that price was determined. But the lease is with FC of Oklahoma City, and that's the action that the Airport Trust took a couple of weeks ago. And it's only the framework of a lease. There is no deal that's actually done at this time. It only was a framework to allow parties to go forward to continue to negotiate.
Okay. There's a state agency called the Commission of Land Officers. Do they control any land at the airport?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the sales tax collections report for April. As we go through the reports, because of the addition of the quarter-cent sales tax, when you compare them to last year, we've got an automatic bump of 12.5%. Because of that extra quarter cent in the general fund rate. And then last year was down a little bit. So you see a 17% increase over last year. You've got to realize that both of those factors play into that number. It's probably a better look at our projection number, and we're 2.8% over our projections, which is good, but don't let the 17% number fool you as we go forward, because it's broken into a bad year last year, then the additional sales tax rate that we have forward. Overall, though, it's good news for the April check. Just make sure you understand what you're comparing when you're doing that. Jason Martinez is here this morning to talk to us about our quarterly investment report. Jason is the Assistant City Treasurer.
Good morning. I'll go ahead and start while Carolyn is bringing up the presentation. My name is Jason Martinez, and I'm an assistant to the treasurer who is not here today. I am tasked with giving a brief overview of the investment program and what drives the portfolio's earnings. So what drives our investment program? Well, we have an investment policy that's been approved by council, and it agrees with the state statutes. I will say that it is very conservative. If I could give an example, it limits us to investing less than 5 years out. That really differentiates us from a higher earning pension program per se. The investment policy also spells out 3 main priorities for the treasurer to follow. Number 1 is safety. What that means is safeguarding the city's assets. Likewise, we're heavily invested in U.S. Treasury bonds and U.S. agency bonds. The number 2 priority is maintaining adequate liquidity. What that means is basically having money when we need it to spend it, whether that is spending on payroll or paying vendors or making debt service payments. Obviously, we don't want to overinvest the portfolio to where it gives us cash flow problems so that we can't pay the things that we need to pay when we need to pay them. So that's a very important priority. Our 3rd priority is earning interest, and we're encouraged to do so, just not at the expense of the safety priority or the liquidity priority. We are tasked with making a market rate of return, and we measure that progress through comparing our portfolio's return against a benchmark's return for the market that we invest in, the short end of the bond market. If you've got your city manager report, the investment report, you can see that month-to-month yield comparison on Exhibit 4. I just want to point out we have an investment committee that's comprised of myself, Bob Ponkilla, the city treasurer, Kenny Sudel, the assistant finance director, and Craig Freeman, the finance director. We meet on a monthly basis and discuss strategy and review return. The market that we invest in is the U.S. bond market. About 96% of our portfolio is invested in government bonds. Of course, government bonds are heavily dependent on the federal funds rate, and the Federal Reserve's Federal Open Market Committee does adjust that rate frequently. We've had about 5 rate increases over the last 3 years, and anytime they do give a quarter-point rate increase, we do see a rippling or an effect on interest rates in the bond market. We don't start earning that interest, those higher yields immediately, but rather as bonds mature off, we reinvest that money back into bonds earning higher yields. If I could just, we're seeing that happen now. We're reinvesting and earning higher yields because there's higher interest rates as the Fed continues to increase interest rates. 1 year ago, for the quarter ending March 31st, 2017, we were earning an annualized return of just under 1%. In the same quarter this year, we earned an annualized return of 1.38%. So a big increase. So looking forward, the report before you is kind of backward looking. It provides portfolio performance for the quarter end and year to date, but we're often asked what we expect going forward. Well, we do expect additional rate hikes this year. We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know how many rate hikes that we're going to get. If you look at a survey of the Federal Open Market Committee members, on balance, they expect the federal funds rate to be at a range of 2% to 2.25% by the end of the year. That suggests an additional 2 quarter-point rate hikes during this year. If I had to guess, we'd probably get one in June and possibly another one at the December meeting. Another factor that heavily affects what we're going to earn going forward is how quickly the portfolio will turn over and those proceeds be reinvested in the higher yielding market. I will say that whether we're talking about the city or the various trust portfolios, that they are well positioned currently to turn over in the next year, year and a half, and be reinvested at those higher yields. In closing, hopefully this presentation has been helpful for you. Giving you an overview and what guides our investment strategy. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
That's all, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And items 12D and E can be found online at okc.gov under our agenda for this meeting. We are now on item 13, citizens to be heard, and we did have one citizen sign up, Mr. Ronnie Kirk. Sir, if you wouldn't mind coming to the microphone and stating your name and address, and just try to keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less. Thank you.
My name is Ronnie Kirk. I'm from 2328 North Missouri here in Oklahoma City. Mr. Holt, most time I bring Emmanuel, 10 years old, to a city council meeting. Today would have been his Field City Council meeting. He wants to tell you congratulations on your new appointment. But he'll be with me in June when we come back. Everybody know that I've been fighting for gun reform. Most people don't know that when a police shoots, he's shooting from muscle memory. Muscle memory. When an untrained person shoots a gun or have a gun pointed at him or shot at him, he shoots like this here. From nervous energy. Nervous energy reflect. If I'm sitting in the mirror, the Cox Convention Center holds 15,000 people. If 1,000 people in there went in with a gun, when they heard any gun go off, they're going to duck, lower their heads, look at their family, see what can be done. And once they start shooting, their hand not going to quit shooting until the gun empties, any type of gun they have. When everyone up here was taking the driver's test years ago, muscle memory is when you're sitting in the driver's seat, everything is going good, but your legs start to jumping. It starts to jumping. That's nervous energy. If so many people had a gun and someone come in and start shooting, once they start shooting, they're not going to quit. They're going to shoot more people from nervous energy than the one with the gun. I have kids, grandkids, they love going to the Cox Center. If I'm going, I don't want to be nervous every time you hear a click of anything. So this the gun law that's on the governor's desk today. I want y'all to speak for me, my grandkids. These people should have a background check. They should learn how to shoot a gun. Because muscle memory, they're going to kill so many people. If I'm driving down the street, I got red on, somebody else got blue on. They pull a gun out, I pull mine out. Do I wait for them to shoot? Who's in the wrong? I'm nervous, I'm in fear for my life also. If I shot and say I was in fear for my life, would I be right? If I sideswipe somebody...
Mr. Kirk, we're at almost 4 minutes. I just wanted to, is there any final thoughts you want to share?
That is it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming down, and thank Emmanuel for his kind words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also gave the same information at your office 2 weeks before the teachers marched.
That's right.
And I also gave all the council members the same information.
Okay.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
All right, you too. Thank you, sir. Are there any other citizens to be heard? There's only one person in the chamber. I'm guessing no. So we will move on and recess into executive session to consider the items that we previously voted on to go into executive session. And so we will be back. We are recessed.